Something died near you today. You probably did not notice. A bird, an insect, a small mammal in the grass somewhere close to where you live. Something that was alive this morning and is not alive anymore. And whatever killed it, age, predation, disease, cold, the body is simply there now, on the ground, in the open, available to whatever comes next. A fox, a crow, the slow work of bacteria and weather and time. No ceremony, no marker, no gesture from the animals nearby that says, this one mattered. Now, think about what humans do. We dig holes, we build containers, we wrap bodies in cloth or place them on platforms or set them on fire in carefully constructed arrangements. We gather, we speak, we bring objects, flowers, food, photographs, personal effects, and we place them near the body or inside the grave. We mark the location with stones or wood or carved monuments. We return to that location, sometimes for the rest of our lives. We do all of this for every person who dies, regardless of status, regardless of age, regardless of geography or era or culture. The specific form varies enormously. The fact of the ritual does not. No other species on Earth does anything close to this. The question is, why? Before we talk about what makes human burial unique, it is worth being precise about what other animals actually do with their dead, because the answer is more complex than nothing. Elephants are the most documented case. When an elephant dies, the herd does not simply walk away. They return to the body, sometimes hours after death, sometimes days. They touch the bones with their trunks. They stand near the remains in apparent stillness. Researchers have observed elephants returning to the skeletons of dead herd members years later, touching the same bones, spending time near them in a way that has no obvious practical explanation. Chimpanzees have been observed carrying dead infants for days or weeks after death, grooming them, protecting them from other animals, refusing to put them down until the body has decomposed past a certain point. Mothers do this. It appears to be a response to attachment that does not immediately recognize death as a final state. Crows gather around dead crows. Dolphins have been documented supporting dead calves at the water's surface. Gorillas have been observed sitting with dead group members in what researchers describe as quiet attendance. Something like recognition of death exists across multiple species. Something like grief, or at least the behavioral residue of attachment that does not immediately terminate at death, is documented in several highly social animals. But none of them bury their dead. None of them mark the location. None of them place objects. None of them perform a prescribed set of actions whose function is to give the death a form, to transform the biological fact of a stopped body into a cultural event with meaning. That specific behavior, ritual funerary treatment, appears, as far as the archaeological and anthropological record shows, in exactly one species. The answer begins with a cognitive capacity that humans have and no other animal demonstrably possesses at the same level. We know we are going to die. Not in the moment of danger. Every animal's nervous system responds to immediate threat with fear and the drive to survive. That is not what is being described here. What humans have is the abstract, forward-projected knowledge that death is coming. Not now, not necessarily soon, but inevitably, regardless of whether any immediate threat is present. This capacity, called prospective cognition or mental time travel, allows humans to model themselves at future points in time, to imagine being older, to plan for events that have not happened, to understand that the future self is continuous with the present self and that the future self will eventually not exist. No other animal has been shown to possess this capacity in a comparable form. Chimpanzees, our closest living relatives, show some evidence of future planning, food caching for example, but nothing that suggests they model their own death as an abstract future event. Humans do, and this changes everything about how we relate to the deaths of others. When someone you love dies, you do not only lose them in the present, you lose them in the future you had already constructed in your mind.
Every imagined conversation, every anticipated shared experience, every version of your future self that included them, all of that disappears simultaneously with the person. The loss is not just of what was, it is of everything that was going to be. That is a cognitive load that no other animal carries, and it requires a cognitive response that no other animal has developed. Burial is that response. By giving the body a place, a specific, marked, returnable location, humans externalize the internal fact of loss. The grave makes the absence visible and permanent and bounded. It says something happened here. It says this person was here, and now they are not, and that fact has a location in the world. The ritual around burial, the gathering, the objects, the words, the gestures, serves a second function. It transforms a private, internal experience of loss into a shared, public, social event. Grief that is witnessed is grief that can be survived. The community's presence at a burial is not ceremonial decoration, it is a functional technology for distributing the weight of loss across a group.
The archaeological record shows that intentional burial is very old. At Kafze Cave in Israel, deliberately buried modern human remains date to approximately 100,000 years ago. The bodies were placed in pits. Ochre, the red pigment found repeatedly across ancient burial sites on multiple continents, was applied to the remains. Grave goods were present. At Shanidar Cave in Iraq, Neanderthal burials date to approximately 60,000 years ago. The evidence for flower placement remains debated, but the intentionality of the burial positioning is not. At Rising Star Cave in South Africa, the possible deliberate placement of Homo naledi remains in a remote chamber may push funerary behavior back to 300,000 years ago or more, before modern humans, before Neanderthals, in a hominin with a brain significantly smaller than our own. And at Sungir in Russia, 34,000 years ago, two adolescents were buried together covered in thousands of hand-carved ivory beads, representing an estimated 10,000 hours of collective labor invested in the funerary preparation of two young people. The pattern across these sites is consistent. Intentionality, labor investment, the placement of objects, the use of symbolic materials, the choice of specific locations. These are not accidents. They are not practical responses to the logistical problem of a dead body. They are the material evidence of a belief held across tens of thousands of years and thousands of miles of separation that the act of burial matters, that the body deserves a specific treatment, that death is an event requiring a human response, not simply a biological fact to be walked away from.
So why do humans bury their dead when no other species does? Because we are the only species that understands what death means before it happens. The crow that sits beside a dead crow is responding to absence, to the presence of a body where a living creature used to be. It is not sitting there aware that it too will one day be that body. It is not carrying the abstract knowledge of its own mortality through every year of its life. We are. And that knowledge, that specific cognitive burden that is uniquely human, creates a relationship with death that no other animal has to manage. We have to live inside the awareness of loss before the loss occurs. We have to build futures in our minds that include people who will eventually not be there. We have to carry the knowledge that everyone we love will die, and that we will die, and that the world will continue regardless. Burial is what we built to carry that weight. It is the oldest human technology that is not about survival. It is not about food or shelter or safety. It is about meaning, about the refusal to let a death be simply a biological event, the stopping of a body, without also being a human event, witnessed and marked and given a place in the world. Every grave ever dug is a statement. It says this person was here. It says their absence is not nothing. It says we were here too and we noticed, and we are not simply walking away. No other species makes that statement. Only us. And we have been making it for at least 300,000 years. long before we had words for what we were doing, long before we had any framework to explain why it mattered. We just knew that it did.